Okay, this is a video tutorial for using a Bitbucket repository and using Visual Studio to push, pull, and initially add the repository to the Bitbucket repository as well from your local Git repository in Visual Studio. So to start with, you have to have an empty repository. So we're going to create repository, and you'll just in Bitbucket it'll just bring you to the screen, giving you the options to name it and everything. So I'm just going to name this first project, and we have our. Let's look at the advanced settings. All right, we don't have to edit any advanced settings really. We can just create the repository and it'll be ready to go. Okay. So now you see this when you initially set up a repository in Bitbucket, it shows this screen. And on this screen, to understand what exactly you need to do, they really want you to use the source tree client, but for using Visual Studio to connect to a Bitbucket repository, we can't really use that option. So when I look at say you're starting a project from scratch, and it gives you some objects here, options here, but usually you want to say I have an existing project, because a lot of times you'll already start coding and then you want to be able to go back and add it to a source control, and then you want to be able to iterate on those versions of in the source control. But so I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna create a new project in Visual Studio, and let's just say, let's see, so let's just create a C sharp, let's see, just C sharp, and just make it a console application. Alright, so now we have our console application, and you can choose to create new Git repository when you first start creating an application in Visual Studio. But we're going to just pretend that you forgot. We're going to pretend that you forgot and that you're not ready to add it to source control yet. You're just going to start the project. Just go ahead and start hammering out code. So we start our project. Alright, so it brings us to a basic console application. And so let's just say we have a console.write, hello world, because that's a classic. Alright, and so now we're going to save this file locally. So now the file is saved locally. I'm going to go File, Add to Source Control. Okay, because you want it to have some type of version control, but you didn't select any version control to begin with. And they give you options to choose. You can use Team Foundation Server, or I think Mercurial as well. Maybe, I don't know. But so we're gonna add, just to show you, we're gonna add to source control, and it'll take a minute to load up here, I think. Okay. Alright. Alright. Let's see if it initializes a local Git repository. So I'm gonna go to changes, and this is hold on, let's see here. Let's just add another console.write. Console.write. This project is cool. Alright, so then we save it, and you can see over here it automatically detects that there's been changes to that project. And I believe it is already, just because I already have a connection to my Bitbucket. Well, it's gonna create a local GitHub, local Git repository, which you can link to. You can push to add a remote to GitHub or Bitbucket if you would like, and I'll show you how to do that here in just a second. So I'm just gonna commit, and I'm gonna say, added features. I'm just gonna say that I added features. Alright, and then we're gonna commit all because we only commit one. And so I'm gonna sync now to sync my changes to the server. Alright, and I'm gonna publish to remote repository, which it shows at the bottom. You can publish to GitHub, Visual Studio Team Services here as well. You click to get started and it'll show up a little URL. Now, this is where it kind of could be tricky, because you would think I would just copy and paste this URL. Okay, but really what you want to do is you want to copy and paste the URL that you got from whenever you clicked on this drop down. It shows I have an existing project. You click on that, and it'll kind of recognize your credentials for your Bitbucket. And so now, now I put in the URL, and I want to publish it. Okay, now I click publish. It may take a minute or whatever for it to go through. All right, and now you let's go back and look and see.